on the part of all of you in organizing this 32nd episode. Should I start now?
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. I think it's a wonderful initiative taken by all of you in organizing this Read with the Teacher episode. And I think this is the 32nd episode. And we have with us Taryn Williams, who is a Fulbright scholar, and she'll be reading this book, Belonging: A Culture of Place.
Right.
I think this is a very unique sort of a thing, and I have, I have seen a lot of posts on social media of Read with the Teacher, and I was always excited to join it personally. And I think this is an opportunity given by all of you, and I am joining it today. I am really excited to know more about this book and this topic, and I'm looking forward on the discussion that will be held today. So my best wishes to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. And we would like to connect it to one of the initiatives that the department and you have basically, maybe like you may not be aware that 2 years ago, I think we were given freedom to buy the book of our choice. So that was the time we bought a lot of books, and that is like driving us. Now read this, now read that. So actually, that was a very conducive environment that got created for the book lovers. So thank you for creating all such conducive environment for all of us. Thank you for being with us. It's a huge moment for us. So thanks a lot, sir. And we know how precious the time is for you. So be with us as much time as it allows you, and also like come in between whenever you feel like. And thank you, sir. So we start discussing this session. So friends, it's a it's a momentous occasion for all of us that Director Education Himanshu Gupta sir is with us, and he himself has decided to join with us and welcome one of our Fulbright colleagues. She has come from the United States to do her fellowship with us. She's a fellow at DBSC, and so for around last 1.5 months, Taryn is with us, and she agreed when I requested her to read a book with us. She agreed that yes, we are going to read it. Sir, I would also like to bring it to your notice that whenever our fellows visit one of the US universities, so then also we conduct a program, and like Neeru Lohia ma'am, Meenu Gupta. So when they were there, so they also called their other friends, and we brought them to this book reading session. So we have been connecting through fellows across the globe through this channel, sir. So now is the time I welcome Taryn. Taryn, so it would be really fascinating for all of us, because for us, like, you come from a very different world, because the kind of presentation that I could see, and I think through this platform I want that the rest of my friends also come across it. And interestingly, the presentation that I saw last time is so embedded in the kind of book that we are going to discuss, which is about the culture of belonging. So basically, we are excited to hear from you. Also, give us a little bit of the academic journey that you have gone through, the 2 times Fulbright fellowship that you got, which is so rare, I will say. So the stage is now to you. So please, Taryn. Yeah.
Hi. So for those of you I haven't met, my name is Taryn, and I am from the United States. I currently live in Alaska. I have a short little presentation just to share a little bit about myself.
Yeah.
Does that look okay?
Yeah, it looks, yeah.
Okay. So as just a little bit of background, I am originally from Massachusetts, which is on the East Coast of the United States. And I went to school in Philadelphia, which is also in the Northeast. And I received both my bachelor's and master's there. My bachelor's in urban studies with a focus on urban education policy, and my master's in elementary education and English for K-12 instruction. My current position is as a head teacher and secondary teacher in the Alaskan Bush. Head teacher essentially means that because our schools are so remote, there isn't a principal on site. So I am the administrator in the village, and then there's a principal who lives elsewhere, who's a principal over a few schools. And my first Fulbright was to Germany in 2015.
That's fantastic.
Do we want to answer the questions while we go? I see somebody's raising their hand.
Yeah, it's okay. You continue. We'll take the questions after some time. Yeah.
Okay. The current place where I live is called Perryville. It's in Alaska. The star roughly indicates where it is, and it is a remote village. The majority of the state of Alaska is remote.
Yeah.
So the roads only go from Anchorage up to Fairbanks, back down to Valdez, and then down here to Kenai and back to Anchorage. And everywhere else is remote in the Alaskan bush, and you have to fly there. And the communities remain.
So, Taryn, often I used to say it whenever people ask me that how this kind of experience it changes. So I often give this example that for us, different parts of the world were like just the points on the map. But now, how the point on the map and then a person speaking from that particular place. So how this, abstract thing, which was just a point on the map, has turned into the lived experiences. That is something so fascinating about your presentation. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's something unique about Alaska is that the majority of the places are filled with Native communities. So the major cities have less of a Native population now due to the colonialism over the years. But where I live, it's an Alutiiq group. So the land belongs to Alutiiq or Supiaq people. And that encompasses the peninsula area where I live, as well as the island next to it, Kodiak Island. And that makes it a very unique place that has thousands and thousands and thousands of years of cultural traditions that are a bit different than elsewhere in the United States.
Wow.
And the village I live in has 80 residents and only 17 students K to 12 or 19 pre-K to 12, although pre-K is only a short part of the day. And remote means that you have to fly in and out. As I mentioned, there are no roads other than on that little triangle in the southern, south central region.
Right.
And these are some photos of my village. It's right on the Ring of Fire, so there is an active volcano.
Chandandi, wouldn't it be like very interesting that like when I saw it for the first time, I was like, wow, I mean, how can this be a village? And where is this village, So if any of us
this is like just we are looking at a poster.
But we have a real people from this place, right? And she's sitting right here. So I think our friends who are participating in this, so if these pictures are evoking some kind of thinking in their mind that how can this picture be real, the people are living there, and we have a real people from this place with us, so you can write your opinion, anything that goes in your mind in our chat box. Yeah, Taryn, you continue, please.
Yeah, so it's on the Ring of Fire, and there's an active volcano right outside the village. And that's why there's all these islands as well. And in 2020, there are also earthquakes every day. And in 2021, the largest earthquake in the world was right outside the village, and it was an 8.1.
Wow.
And it does not snow very much where I live due to being far in the south and also the coastal warming effect. So this is about as much snow as there ever is, unfortunately.
And this grassland, one of the picture that shows it's generally in the summer, right?
That is, that picture is from March, so it's from the spring.
Okay, it's from the spring. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's tundra, so it looks like that pretty much. Yeah, it's brown in the winter, browner in the winter, and then starts to get green again in the spring.
Right.
And most of Alaska is tundra, so it's a bit. The ground is very soft, and it's all grassy in a lot of places with the tundra grass.
Right.
Then
this is something fascinating. The previous picture, yeah.
Yeah, this is some of my experience with curriculum development, developing culture responsive, inquiry-based and place-based lessons.
Right. Well, can you show those four students, the picture who you were showing? That is very interesting for us to see the faces of the students.
Yeah, you can see them here. So in the
Okay,
bottom,
it's there. Okay, right. Yeah.
yeah, and those are all the middle and high school students at my school.
Yeah. So it can only be in perhaps the most beautiful school one can ever imagine, that there would be like how many? Around 14 to 15 students, right?
17.
In this 17 students in this school. Yeah. So these are some of the students. Yeah.
Yeah. And we also do a lot of cultural activities school-wide. So this picture is it was an activity with pre-K through 12th grade students learning
Mhm.
about a local sporting event called Native Youth Olympics. And
Right.
in these games, the students do activities. I think there's like 10 to 15 of them total. Then the activities are all related to Native tradition. So this one is called the seal hop, which is the whole purpose is to symbolize how their ancestors, when they would go hunting, is they would sneak up on the animals. And for this event, the students hop with moving their body like as little as possible, staying as straight as possible. They move from one side of the gym to the other and back multiple times.
Right.
And we
Beautiful.
also have done cultural dances and bring elders into the school to have them teach about their experiences and how life has changed in the village over the years.
Right. Now, like we are also working on this component that how to, rope into the elders, particularly the alumni, and seek their expertise in, engaging with us. We are also working on it now.
This is a couple representations of my experience in curriculum development, since my project here at the DBSC is specifically related to curriculum. And one was the community-based mathematics project that I worked on about 8 years ago, developing curricula for the city of Philadelphia, that all the math questions were related to their local context and things that would happen in the city.
Yeah.
And this past summer, I was a fellow at the National World War I Museum in Kansas City, Missouri, where I worked to develop K-12 curricula about World War I in the Middle East and the fall of the Ottoman Empire.
Fantastic. Do we have more pictures? Yeah. So these are the students, right?
Yes, so these are all pictures of students in different places, and we've traveled all over the US and beyond. So we've traveled within Alaska, and in a few weeks we'll be traveling to Florida, which is pretty much as far as you can get. It is as far as you can get away from Alaska while still being in the US. And this was a trip to Hawaii that we took about a month ago now, a little over a month ago, as a culmination to all the different topics we learned about over the years, during the year, from history to cultural to science and everything else.
Yeah.
And we traveled to the nation's capital last year in Washington, D.C. as well. So
like you prepare your students to participate in different competition, and this is how they come to, even to the capital of US, Washington, D.C. Amazing. I think it must have been a very different experience for all our friends who are here. Seeing those pictures, actually, it transports us to altogether a different world. So thank you, Taryn, for sharing these pictures, which is actually rooted in your belonging. So we come to the book reading. In fact, it was a part of it. It's not separate. And the book that we have chosen today is Belonging, A Culture of Place, a book written by a famous American professor and writer, Bell Hooks. Around 2 years ago, one of my friends from Azim Premji University introduced me to this writer, and I was like overwhelmed that this kind of scholarship is available in the field of education when I started reading her. The beauty of her writing is converting the simple life stories into the academic work. So I think for the aspiring writers and teachers, those who want to, get deeper into this field, the bell hooks could be one of the finest readers to start with. So for friends, bell hooks was I mean, just around 2 years ago she died. She was teaching at Stanford University, and she comes from the African Black women community, Kentucky. And in this book, what she's talking about, so I would invite Karen again to give us a kind of brief that what this book is about. But before, Karen, I invite you the few lines, as we often do. We read from the book. I mean, to just bring the book into the introduction. So I'm reading here just few lines. How can you buy or sell the sky, the warmth of the land? The idea is strange to us. If we do not own the freshness of the air and the sparkle of the water, how can you buy them? Every part of this earth is sacred to my people. Every shining pine needle, every sandy shore, every mist in the dark woods, every clearing and humming insect is holy in the memory and experience of my people. We are part of the earth and it is part of us. The perfumed flowers are our sisters, the deer, the horse, the great eagle. These are our brothers, the rocky crest, the Zeus in the meadows, the body heat of the pony and man, all belongs to the same family. So I think how she is writing about belonging, I think this paragraph I found very fascinating to start with. So now, Taran, Chandan, whenever you feel like coming in, so please, Taran, yeah. So can you just give us a kind of glimpse that what the book is about?
Yeah, so the book is about, it's somewhat of a memoir. So it goes through a lot of Bell Hooks's life and experiences, and it starts in the past and moves to the present. It was published in 2009, I believe.
Yeah.
And a lot of what Bell Hooks looks at is the intersection of class and race and gender, and especially in different places, since she started in Kentucky, which is in the southern United States. And as a Black person, experienced very different parts of history there, and different levels of racism and class differences based on her childhood to her adult life. And she also lived in the North, in New York City, and other places as well, I believe. And Stanford is the university in California in the Bay Area that she attended. And so she looks a lot at how the dynamics of class and race can influence a person's sense of belonging and community where they live, as well as family dynamics. And also there's a large focus on land ownership and how that affects a person, and particularly the different aspects of trying to own land as a person of color or a white person in different locations.
Yeah, I think while you were reading this book, it's something very interesting in a sense that we are reading an American writer, and so while you were reading as American white woman a book which was written by American Black woman, I think it might have been bringing a lot of conflict within you also while reading. You might have come to know about various aspects which she is bringing to the fore. Was there any such things that you find was a kind of conflict while reading it and you came across it?
No, there was nothing that was conflicting with what so I do a lot of race studies as a white person who's lived in a lot of different cultures, and a lot of places where the dominant culture was different than the one I come from. I've done a lot of this type of reading to learn about different histories as well as dynamics in the places that I've lived. So I went in with an open mind, and there wasn't really a sense of
fantastic. So you have already like been through a fantastic journey of engaging with all this kind of literature. Couple of things that will be very interesting for all of us to discuss, know through this book. And the beauty of such books are that it has universal appeal. So like in this book also, she talks about the urban and local divide, even the divide between the South and North America. Divide in the sense that how people aspire, to move to the North American cities, and very few people want to live back in the place that she's referring, Kentucky, where she was born and was brought up. So similar phenomena we experience in India. A lot of migration happens from village to cities. And then the people who live in the cities, they go through the dilemma that whether they should go back to their villages, how they would connect, how they would negotiate, how they would work with the people who are there in the village. I think this is one of the significant aspects which has been addressed here. How do you see that? If you could have identified some paragraph, or if you want to make a comment on this dichotomy, this dilemma that the writer is trying to address.
Yeah, there are. Let me see. So on page 23 and 24,
Okay.
a paragraph that I'll read.
Mhm.
All the positive aspects of a culture of belonging that Kentucky offered me were not present in other places. And maybe it would have been harder for me to return to my native place if I had not consistently sustained and nurtured bonds of kin and family despite living away.
Mhm.
My last lengthy place of residence prior to becoming a resident of Kentucky was New York City.
Excuse me, give me a second.
Now, please unmute yourself. I have muted all.
Had anyone ever predicted when I was younger that I would one day live in Manhattan, I would have responded, that is never going to happen. And then it's kind of a long paragraph, so I'll skip ahead. Bringing my Kentucky ways with me wherever I made home place sustained my ties to home and made it possible for me to return home. So I think this shows a bit about what you were talking about how a lot of people choose to go somewhere else, but they always bring some part of their home with them so that they have customs in their
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have also identified a paragraph at page 40 that is in context of what we are discussing about this aspiration, to move to the places which offers more opportunities. So it writes, the motivation for Black folks to leave the South and move north was both material and psychological. Black folks wanted to be free of the overt racial harassment that was a constant in Southern life, and they wanted access to material goods, to a level of material well being that was not available in the agrarian South, where white folks limited access to the spheres of economic power. Of course, they found that life in the North had its own perverse hardships, that racism was just as virulent there, that it was much harder for Black people to become landowners. So, here, I mean, there is a particular context where she's talking about South, North. Again, in our context, we see the similar dilemma. People leave village, they assume that there are greater opportunities available in the cities. So I think across the globe, this kind of dilemma most people face, and that has been beautifully documented by the writer. I think Terry, it would be interesting that if we can also read the different chapters that she has named. Even that is so beautiful to give a kind of idea to our friends that what is there in the book.
The names of the chapters?
Yeah, it would be really interesting. I found it very different. Yeah.
1 is to know where I'm going. 2 is Kentucky is my fate. 3 is moved by mountains. 4 is touching the earth. 5 is reclamation and reconciliation. 6 is to be whole and holy. 7 is again, segregation must end. 8 is representations of whiteness and the Black imagination. 9 is drive through tobacco. 10 is earthbound on solid ground. 11, an aesthetic of Blackness, strange and oppositional. 12, inspired eccentricity. 13, a place where the soul can rest. 14, aesthetic inheritances, history worked by hand. 15, piecing it all together. 16, on being a Kentucky writer. 17, returning to the wound. 18, Healing Talk, A Conversation.
Mhm.
19, Take Back the Night, Remake the Present.
Mhm.
20, Habits of the Heart. And 21, A Community of Care.
Wow. So, I mean, these are very different names that she has given to her experiences. And it's really interesting. And it's hardly 210 pages, or 20 pages in the book. So the friends, if they wish, they can read it. So coming back to the conversation that we were having about the North-South divide, one of the beauty of her writing is that she also, referred to the contemporary writers and the classic poets and the storytellers in her writing. And the one poem that I found very interesting, and I would like to share with all of you. And so, contrasting the harshness of city life with an agrarian world, the poet Warning Ken wrote this popular poem in the 1920s, testifying to lost connection. And she writes now, I mean, she is referring to the poet and then writing, she does not know her beauty. She thinks her brown body has no glory. If she could dance naked under palm trees and see her image in the river, she would know. But there are no palm trees on the street, and dishwater gives back no images. I mean, this last line is like so painful, that the dishwater gives back no reflection. So she is like commenting, I mean, this writer is commenting upon the kind of life that the Black folks live when they come to the North, working as housemaids in most of the houses. I mean, I'm not saying anything from my side. I'm just referring to the book. And then she's trying to tell the kind of hardship that those people face in the cities. And the writer writes that there is no palm tree in these streets, and the dishwater doesn't give a reflection. So yeah, would you like to comment on this, Terence?
I think you covered it pretty well.
Okay, so what's the next paragraph that you have identified to read for us?
So I have,
Chandanji, we're waiting for it from you also.
Once she go with the flow, then
Yeah.
I will. I have selected
Right.
one. Yeah.
Right.
on page 131, I marked the quote,
Okay. Yeah.
racism is a white issue as much as it is a Black one. This
Mm.
a conversation that is very common in the United States right now, especially in the wake of 2020 and all of the police killings and other killings of people of color that have taken place since then.
Mhm.
And that shifted the dynamic for a lot of people in the United States and made it more apparent for them the issues that were going on, even though they had existed for so long, that more people, especially people who weren't Black, were thinking about it and talking about these conversations. And so I thought that was a quote that stuck with me as a white person reading this book, and knowing that all of the issues that she talks about, whether or not they feel they directly affect me, they do. And one way or another, privilege affects the people that receive it as much as the people that don't. And so that is something that has been on my mind.
Yeah, of course. I mean, in this context only, she writes that years ago, when racial segregation was the norm, most folks learned about folks from a different ethnic racial background by hearsay, that is, relying on stereotypes, gossip, and fantasy-based projections. Nowadays, mass media is a location where most folks gather information about the other. This is extremely important line. I'm rereading it. Nowadays, mass media is the location where most folks gather information about the other. That is, folks who are different from themselves. Unfortunately, since the culture produced in mass media often uses existing stereotypes and biases for its raw material, information about poor Blacks and whites is largely negative. Yet, this negative content does not constitute a closed system of thinking and being. So, this is again a global phenomena. Uh, Today, only in one of the conversation, I was talking that one of the Nobel laureate, I think last year she won the Nobel Peace Prize, Maria Rasha. She's from Philippines and a journalist. So in her novel, lecture, she talked about how this mass media, which is actually um, revalidating and kind of strengthening the existing stereotypes and prejudices and putting one community against the other, which Bell Hooks is talking in this paragraph, is creating a lot of social divide in her country. And this appears to be a kind of a common phenomena across the globe. Even in this country, we experience it. That is something very interesting. I mean, that the mass media is also continuing with the role which otherwise people were, engaged in knowing about others through stereotypes and prejudices, and thus making a mental picture about it. And the mass media is just validating it. Do you also find it? You have spent a lot of time in Germany also that this is happening.
Yeah, I think it happens in every place to a certain extent. And I know that that is a common issue in the United States, is that a lot of people who have issues specifically with foreigners coming in from other countries generally haven't met anybody who's from there. They don't know, have personal connections to people from other places. And that is where a lot of the anti-immigration stances in the United States tend to come from, is not knowing people personally and only having ideas in your mind about these groups of people.
Right. This is very interesting. In fact, for all our friends, the idea of othering is a very important concept in sociology. And in most places where the mass violence takes place, this is preceded with the idea of othering, when one community is feeded with the idea that how other community is totally different, and not only different, but they do not, the two cannot coexist. And when it persists, ultimately it takes the form of the mass violence. Sometimes we name it as, in different names in different countries. So that is a kind of problem that this writer is also talking about. And we also, if we try to see that how we know others, if the intermediary is the media, or what we know about others is based on stereotypes and prejudice, we are actually participating in the process of othering. Am I right, Darren? Isn't it? Yeah. Chandanji, so we are waiting from you also. You have been so passionate about the books that you always ensure that you touch the books, physically. So it should be that in your hand. So that is something so amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
So I have selected from page number 153, chapter 14, Aesthetic Inheritances, History Work by Hand. So the author says here, to write this piece, I have relied on fragments, bits and pieces of information found here and there. Sweet late night calls to Mama, which is like, her grandmother, to see if she remembers when. Memories of old conversation coming back again and again. Memories like reused fabric in a crazy quilt, contained and kept for the right moment. I have gathered and remembered. I wanted one day to record and document. I repeat the word document, so that I would not participate in further erosion of the aesthetic legacy and artistic contributions of Black women. So, being an educator, it's our role to we document whatever we feel, whatever we see around us, so that, we can definitely have a neck of it, that what exactly had happened and how I was thinking at that time, and when the moment has passed already, how now I am looking at that incident or any particular thing, and how exactly I am now thinking about that particular incident, and is it was I reacting that time or responding to that particular incident? So for this kind of note making and documenting is very essential for the educators, that I must say.
Chandan, you have brought a very interesting conversation. In fact, earlier also I was speaking to Taryn about it, that how, in fact, a significant portion of this book, she is devoting to her conversation with her grandmother, whom she refers as Baba. Is it common to refer to grandmother as Baba, Tarun? Or
I'm
it's
not
there?
sure. That's
Okay,
might be from a certain cultural background. I'm not sure.
okay, yeah. And like many of us, those who come from the village background, they know, and even in the cities, if we have seen the how earlier generation lived, um, so a lot of pages and conversation has been devoted on quilt making. I'm sorry, there is some electricity issue which will get. I'm still audible, I think. I can
Yes.
speak, so I can speak from the darkness as well, right? The light came. Yeah. Uh, yeah. So I was telling that which many of us can relate so closely. When we go back to our village, we find the old folks are engaged in kind of quilt making activities. And she's talking about that how that activity is both productive and also spiritual, whom we otherwise, reject, which kind of work they are doing, they are not educated. So how in the ordinary day-to-day life she's adding meaning. So this has completely transformed my perspective, that how to look at the life that people live, whom we discard as they are not educated, they do not know, we know better. And she's actually challenging our assumptions, that our worldview about the people who are poor, who live in village, those who are hardworking, those who are actually putting their hand and mind together. So they are perhaps in a better position. They live longer. Their life, satisfaction is better. So all these things she is bringing through this example of her conversation with her grandmother, whom she's referring as Baba. Would you like to comment on this segment, Taryn? Or if you have identified something from this, yeah.
Well, I marked a paragraph that came pretty soon after that said
Mhm.
also about the same thing about the quilt making and the history and
Yeah.
all of the pieces that go into that.
Mhm.
And it said on page 163, time and time again, stories are told about the survival strategies folks use to maintain a sense of hope in desperate,
Mm.
life-threatening situations of oppression, dehumanization, and violence.
Right.
I first heard such stories listening to Baba talk about living in slavery and beyond. She talked about hearing about the hardships, experiencing them as a girl, and she talked about the role of quilt making as both a functional necessity of life,
Mhm.
but also she tells stories about life-sustaining energy of the imagination, the artistry behind the creation of quilts.
Right. Very interestingly, you have I found it. In fact, this segment was like for all of us, those who have seen this kind of activities in their home, or those who belong to village, they can easily connect it. That how these so-called ordinary activities, which perhaps do not carry intellectual pursuits, she has given altogether a different meaning. That it is not just intellectual, but it's kind of a spiritual activity, that quilt making, and the way she has tried to explain it. I found it very powerful. I'm trying to bring our conversation to one more issue, which I found again very powerful. Again, because she's writing in US, contextualized in her experiences of black and white. We see it in our context, our context of class and caste divide. So one paragraph I'm reading, which is again, I think, universal in its appeal, and that is in white supremacist society. So we can like fix anything here, rather than in white supremacist society, we can say any other word we can fit here, whatever the dominant community in a particular country is. White people can safely imagine that they are invisible to black people since the power they have historically asserted and even now collectively assert over black people accorded them the right to control the black gaze. And this is very interesting thing that she's talking about, and which I would like to bring in the conversation. Them to right to control the black gaze. As fantastic as it may seem, racist white people find it easy to imagine that black people cannot see them if within their desire they do not want to be seen by the dark other. One mark of oppression was that Black folks were compelled to assume the mantle of invisibility, to erase all traces of their subjectivity during slavery and the long years of racial apartheid, so that they could be better, less threatening servants. An effective strategy of white supremacist terror and dehumanization during slavery centered around white controls of the Black gaze. Black slaves and later manumitted servants could be brutally punished for appearing to observe the whites they were serving, as only a subject can observe or see. This is very interesting line. As only a subject can observe or see. To be fully an object and then was to lack the capacity to see or recognize reality, these looking relations were reinforced as whites cultivated the practice of denying the subjectivity of Blacks. So, and one line in this long paragraph is, to look directly was an assertion of subjectivity, equality, safety resided in the pretense of invisibility. I mean, this is a powerful formula for any place where there are a difference on any basis, whether it's caste, class, religion. And the last line I repeat again, to look directly into the eyes, was an assertion of subjectivity, equality, safety resided in the pretense of invisibility. So anywhere, wherever there is a struggle of equality, these bodily gestures are so important. So, I mean, she's giving the example from her context, but this is again the universal truth. Have you experienced it in any community, Terence, whether it's in Germany or in the United States, that how this subjective, the relations between the two groups, the group which dominates, the group which is powerful, and the group which is less dominating, which has no power, it is embedded in the body gestures.
Yeah, there's a quote in the United States that is generally looked down upon from the anti-racist community, where people who have benefited from the systemic racism and white privilege will say, I don't see race. And that's a very common phrase to hear still today in the United States in a lot of situations where people are approached about racial issues, particularly by people. They'll say, I don't see race, as in, I don't see race, so I can't be racist, but that doesn't acknowledge that, does the opposite of acknowledging the racist systems that are in place that have helped certain people, help specifically white people get to where they are.
Right, fantastic. I think the similar phrase we use, that we do not see caste anywhere now. It is often used, in the conversation in our school environment, that this doesn't exist. It's a matter of past. But this invisibility is the strategy that's how it asserts itself, and that's how it presents. It makes its present, visible. So that's he's talking about. I mean, and I found it very interesting. Yeah. So this formula I found very interesting, and we can teach it to our students to look directly is an assertion of subjectivity. In fact, we must teach it to our students that whenever they talk to their teachers, they must look into the eyes of the teachers, because that's the claim that they are the subject. They are not the object. They are the equals, right? And that I found like really amazing. Meanwhile, you can read the next paragraph that you have identified for us, Terence.
I had another one that I had was on page 25.
Okay.
That's the start of chapter 3, Moved by Mountains. And this chapter starts to get into the natural environment and how important that is to your sense of place.
Yeah. So before you read, give me a second. I would just like to share it with our friends that they might find that we go ahead, we go back. So sometimes we read 140 pages, sometimes we read page number 25. So basically, we are not here to analyze the book or make any comment on the book. We are basically here to enjoy the reading of the book. So say if we find something reading and enjoying at page 140, we go there. If we find something reading and enjoying at page 25, we go there. it's basically a program which promotes the joy of reading. So basically, we are engaged in. Yeah, Tarun, you can continue reading.
Life is full of peaks and valleys, triumphs and tribulations. We often cause ourselves suffering by wanting only to live in a world of valleys, a world without struggle and difficulty, a world that is flat, plain, consistent. We resist the truth of difference and diversity. We resist acknowledging that our constants exist within a framework where everything is always changing. We resist change. When we're able to face the reality of highs and lows, embracing both as necessary for our full development and self-actualization, we can feel that interior well-being that is the foundation of inner peace. That life of appreciation for difference, for diversity, a life where one embraces suffering as central to the experience of joy, is mirrored for us in our natural environment.
Right.
And this is something that I thought was really interesting. It gets a lot into place as a specific, because before and after she talks more about place as a sense of community, but this chapter gets into the sense of physical place. And I thought it was very interesting to symbolize how the world and the diversity of the world matches the diversity of our experiences, and how a lot of people can be let down or frustrated if things don't go as easily as planned, but that you don't get the sense of joy if you don't go through the suffering as well. I think that's a really important concept. And I think that this is something that I also teach to my students. I don't know if you folks are familiar with the movie or if it has a different name here called Inside Out, but it is about emotions and joy, the happiness emotion. It has an outline of blue around her that is supposed to symbolize that you can't have any joy without sadness.
Very. Have you given the name of a movie, Inside Out?
Yes, from Pixar.
Okay. We will watch it.
There are 5 or 6 emotions all together: the anger, the hope, the joy, all in the form of kids.
And it's great to be teaching students about joy, about feelings and emotions. And yeah, that's the connection there, is that they each have a certain shape that's supposed to match the feeling. And joy is a bright yellow, a happy color, but outlined by blue to show that you need a little bit of sadness to have your joy.
Okay. Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. I think the beauty of this book is that it takes us through different challenges that each one of us, experience in our daily lives. And one challenge that she's talking about is that I'm going to read, and then I will, discuss that. She's writing that in that house, things were not to be looked at; they were to be possessed. A space was not to be created, but owned. A violent anti-aesthetic. This is a beautiful word. A violent anti-aesthetic that most of us have become, basically. I grew up thinking about art and beauty as it existed in our lives, the lives of poor Black people. Without knowing the appropriate language, I understood that advanced capitalism was affecting our capacity to see, right? I mean, this advanced capitalism is actually affecting the capacity to see for all of us. That consumerism began to take the place of that predicament of heart that called us to yearn for beauty. Now, many of us are only yearning for things. So not for the beauty, but for the things. So I think one of the cores and one of the philosophy that most of us appreciate, we are trained in Jivan Vidya. That also talks about that it's not the things that gives meaning to our life. Collection of things are not, that defines who we are, but it's our inner beauty, that what is there inside us when we are alone, that defines us who we are. That she's talking about here as well. That she's saying that collection, yearning for things have become, the sense of aesthetics, not the yearning for the beauty. And it's a common dilemma I think people across the globe are facing, and this has been imposed by the modern capitalist consumerist behavior, isn't? And in that sense, I will say, Darren, the way we got the opportunity to engage with you that you are challenging this capitalist consumerist behavior. Like you are a kind of person who is like believing in minimalist kind of thinking, you know, investing a lot in experiences, traveling across the globe.
Yeah, I don't ascribe to minimalism specifically because there are a lot of issues with minimalism as a concept, specifically that even though it's pushed as a certain belief that you don't need much and you can survive on little, and it seems like that would be a anti-capitalist belief, but actually you need a certain level of wealth to be able to pursue minimalism, because you need to be able to have the security of money to be able to go out and buy things when you need them, to know that you can put something away without having to worry about needing it again. Whereas if you're from a lower income background, you generally need to save things because you might need to use them again. Repurposing them can help you save money later on as well. So I don't subscribe to minimalism as a concept for those reasons, but I do think that her discussions of Bell Hooks' discussions of minimalism does relate a lot to what my life philosophies are. And I do try to live in a very sustainable way, which just means having less stuff in general.
That's fantastic. I think we are now moving towards the last leg of the program. We have 7-8 minutes left. So all of us, in fact, Chandanji, Karen. So the final paragraph that you have identified, it always happens that in the book reading session, we do not cover most of the things. Again, the idea is to read something that inspires our friends to engage with the book. We do not want to tell everything what is there in the book so that they read. They must get back from the program with a sense of dissatisfied feeling, you know, that there is something which is left, which need to be explored further. So that we want that they actually need to engage with the book. So all of us will read one paragraph in the end. That is, we'll say that this is the paragraph that we wanted to read and that we do not want to miss. So yeah, Karen, if you have like identified the last one, or Chandanji, have you identified? Okay, so we will start from the Chandan.
You want me to
And
start?
Chandanji will start, and I would also like a couple of my friends, because it's a very special episode when a Fulbright, fellow from the United States is here. Our Director of Education, sir, has joined. So any of our, the friends who are here with us, if they would like to share something, so they can raise their hand, and we will try to listen from them. Yeah, Chandan.
Here it is like, the healing conversation. For white folk who see certain kind of work as beneath them, there has to always be a subordinated classes to do the dirty work. Whether that class has a racialized or ethnic identity, sadly, like, many black and white poor people buy into the same logic and feel that they are too good for certain forms of immigrants. So, like, here we can see that the author has really addressed the hard issue here as well. That, like, she did not try to sugarcoat it. That, this is not happening, or we don't see that, everybody is welcoming everybody with open arms. So, like, having the like owner of the manual work is very essential and crucial. So I think, like, this is somewhat related to the Gandhiji's idea of like, honoring the hand who does the work.
Yeah, that we find that reflection, the honoring the hand, or at least bringing the mind and the hand together. Yeah. Chandanji, have you finished?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay. So now, Karen.
Okay. Yet I was never able to truly get away. In my mind and imagination, I was always returning to the Kentucky hills to find there a way to ground my being, a place of spiritual sustenance. This internal landscape, the world of the Kentucky hills, where I felt the deepest sense of freedom in my girlhood, was the site I returned to in my imagination to restore my soul as I lived a life in exile far away from the only place where I'd felt a true sense of belonging. No
Mm.
wonder then that I had to return to those Kentucky hills to reclaim my sense of belonging on the earth.
Right. So this is, I think, you have read the most beautiful paragraph. I was always wondering that why people, when they grow up in their age, in their 50s and in their 60s, why do they want to go back to their native places? They want to stay there. Many people wish to die there. And I was thinking that it's some kind of Indian cultural phenomena. But while reading her, I find that this is something innate with the human identity wherever they are. So how Bell Hooks was imagining that in her last days, she should reconnect to the people where she was brought up. You know, she wanted to get back to that place. She wanted to live there. That was a kind of very phenomenal finding for me that this is not related to a particular culture. This is a kind of universal phenomena that people want to get back to their roots. It appears to be a kind of innate calls, you know, that we want to get back to our roots wherever it is. And that is perhaps the most beautiful place in the world, uh, you know, at least in the final stage of our life, where we want to get back, we want to be a part of the same community, we want to contribute in its upliftment. So I have come across many such people, but I was never able to understand that why they have left all the comfort wherever they were living and they get back to the roots, they are getting back to the villages and they are trying to contribute. So what you read is something helped shape my perspective, that why even I feel sometimes it happens when I get back to my village where I have spent 20 years of my life. Suddenly, if I like come across a tree which I have shown long, you know, back, it has grown up. And if I go there, I feel so emotional. I don't know what happens there, but it happens. While reading all these, I'm, you know, figuring out that there is some deep connect that is happening, you know, with the roots where the humans are being brought up, and it's the kind of universal phenomena. So fantastic, you know, paragraph that you read. The one paragraph that I chose that I will read, and then I'll invite some of the friends who have raised the hand. Uh, it is about, and again, this I found very fantastic, that most people imagine that Black folks working the land were just victims, working for little and living a starvation life. We both know that the life of a small farmer can be terribly hard. What outsiders rarely see is the spiritual reward, the power of redemptive suffering. When you live in a capitalist culture that tells you all forms of suffering is bad, take these pills, this shot, have this operation, make the pain go away, and then you lose the mystery and magic of redemptive suffering. When her children were sold from her. I mean, I won't continue this paragraph. I will just focus on this word, redemptive suffering. And this was, again, a phenomenal finding for me. You know, that when we allow our body to go through the suffering, find its own healing, and we do not jump to pills or the immediate, you know, fix up from the doctors. So that beauty she's talking about. And still we find that, you know, my mother lives with me, and whenever she feels, you know, she has fever or something, she resists having medicine for a couple of days. I mean, she tries her best to get it recovered, you know, naturally. And you know, we quickly jump to taking the medicine. So redemptive suffering and its beauty, its spiritual value is something so beautiful that I picked from this book and perhaps going to use it. So Chandanji, we are almost touching 8 p.m. I think I see Swati Batraji is raising the hand. If she wants to share something, it would be also interesting if you introduce yourself, ma'am. Yeah.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, all. This is Swati Batra. I am lecturer English in SOAC Sector 18. The one thing that I wanted to share is like Bell Hooks never capitalized her name. She always wrote them in small letters. And this is a pen name that
Oh, very interesting. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And this is a pen name that she has taken from her great grandmother. So even the name, she always said, "Ki I don't want people to focus on my name. Like you can relate it to Shakespeare's quote, "What is in the name?" Because she wants people to focus on her work. And this
Right.
also, this step of taking the pen name from great grandmother is a
Right.
way of connecting past and present. Like in this
Mm.
particular book also, she's talking about sense of belonging.
Right.
So
Right.
it's a way of showing her belongingness to her roots.
Right. Right. ब्यूटीफुल
So
थिंग्स यू हैव ब्रॉट. हाँ, मैंने उनका देखा तो था कि हर जगह वो स्मॉल में ही लिखा हुआ रहता है, बट आई कुडंट फिगर इट आउट कि आई मीन व्हाई इट इज सो.
yes, sir. Thank you, sir. That was all that
थैंक
I
यू.
wanted.
And I'm like quite inquisitive that have you read her other writings as well?
Yes, sir. I have read it in feminist literary theory, most of her works,
Oh,
and that she belongs to feminism.
fantastic. And you are teaching in one of our schools?
Yes, sir. In School of Excellence, Sector 18, Rohini.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. So please be with us sometime on this Read with a Teacher. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, sir. I would love to join these sessions again because I'm myself a literary enthusiast and I keep on reading such books. I have done my
Thank
MA English and MPhil English, so I am more into this research field.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Yeah,
you, sir.
Chandanji. So we end this live session here, and we have Taryn with us. So any of our friends, if they want to ask something, about her experience as a teacher, about her experience as a person who is living in Alaska, as a person who studied in Pennsylvania, and grown up at Massachusetts. So, you all are welcome. So we stop Facebook Live from here.